What's going on YouTube? It's Tom here and we're back with another video today. It's been a little while since I've uploaded here onto the YouTube channel, since the Wicked Edge video. Thank you guys for all the support on that. That's been one of my most popular videos that I've ever put out, and I'm glad that you guys are getting some enjoyment out of it. Today's video topic is going to be pretty interesting, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I got two things I want to get out of the way real quick before we get into the video. First off, I want to thank everybody for an incredible 2019. 2019 is wrapping up. We only got about a day and a half left when I'm recording this. This channel's grown tremendously since then, and I've had a lot of awesome opportunities because of you guys, supporting the channel. We went from something like 100 subs at the very beginning of the year all the way up to we're just shy of 750 now, which is awesome. Can't wait to hit 1K next year. That was kind of the goal for this year, was to hit 1K, and we came a lot closer than I thought, honestly. So thank you guys for all the views and all the support that you guys have given me over the past year. I've really enjoyed every minute of it. Secondly, I've had a lot of requests for this, and I kind of put it off for a while, but I have started a Patreon, and I don't know, I just never like accepting money from anybody, but I've had enough requests for it, so I decided to start one. Thank you to Brian from Transparent Knives. He helped me set it up and get names for the tiers and everything. I'm going to put the link to that in the description below, so if you guys want to donate to that, you can go ahead. We're already up to I think it was like $37 a month or something, which is awesome. Just letting you guys know, if you do donate to that, anything that is donated will either be paying for shipping your knives back to you if you guys loan them to me, or cardboard, since I'm buying that cardboard from Walmart now to have consistent cardboard. Pretty much anything else is just going to go back into giveaways for you guys, and hopefully we can save up a little bit of money for that and get some pretty sweet knives to donate to you guys. Before we continue here, Brian is doing a giveaway over on his Instagram. I forget what his handle is. If you look up Transparent Knives, or if you're on my Instagram, I'm sure you can find his handle. But I'll try and put it in the description as well. He's doing a giveaway for anybody who donates to my Patreon, or I think some people were having issues with the Patreon and they were just sending me money via PayPal. That's cool too. He's got 2 knives, I think he was giving away, either 2 or 3, I can't remember. But if you guys are interested in that, go ahead and head over to his Instagram and follow the rules to enter into that. So the idea I had for the video today, pretty much everyone does the top knives lists at the very end of the year, whether it be the top knives of 2019 or, like the top knives of their collection in 2019, whatever. I've never been a huge fan of those. I've never really wanted to do anything like that, because it seems like everybody does them. The video that I'd like to do today is my top 5 blade steels of 2019. That's more what I'm interested in, the blade steel compositions, why they perform the way that they do, and just high performance stuff like that. So that's kind of what we're going to do. If anybody who's watching makes videos as well, I'd love to see your top 5 blade steels of 2019. That'd be awesome. If you want to make a top 10, go for it. I just decided to narrow it down to the top 5 because 10 would be a little bit too much for me. Now, these don't necessarily have to be blade steels that I tried for the first time this year, just my top 5 favorites from this year. And this list has been ever changing. Every steel I've tried a lot of different steels this year. This has been quite an experience for me this year, as far as getting a lot of experience trying blade steels like these. But yeah, like I said, this list has been ever changing. If you'd have asked me at the very start of the year what my top 5 blade steels would be, I don't think any of the 5 that I have in my top 5 would have even made that list. So anyhow, let's go ahead and get into it. I do have a couple of absolute no's, and actually before we even get into that, I've never really showed it before. This is pretty much my entire knife collection at this point in time. I just sold 3 or 4 of them, but this is my entire collection. This stretch in ZDP is not mine. That's actually on loan right now, and there will be a video on that coming up in the relatively near future, probably sometime in January is what I'm thinking. But other than that, these are all my knives. This is pretty much all I have at the moment, and I'm pretty content with what I have here. Got some real excellent knives. So let's get into the absolute no's. The blade steels that I absolutely hated for this year. I put down 4. First and foremost, 8CR13 MOV. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. This honey badger was sent to me by Jack Farmboy after having him on the podcast. I lost a bet and had to carry this. I was supposed to carry it for 2 weeks, and that happened right in the very busy season of where I work, and I was cutting a bunch of cardboard, and I ended up only carrying it for a week, and I had to sharpen it like 3 or 4 times during that week. I will have a video on that in the future as well, but yeah, an 8CR is just a definite no for everything that I do. So that was the first one. Second one, if you guys know me at all, if you guys are one of my close friends, you pretty much know I hate this blade steel D2. Absolutely hate D2, and I only have one knife in it. That's this HK, back when they were made by Benchmade. This is well done D2, and I absolutely hate it. I think the edge retention is pretty poor for what it is. I think it sharpens like shit. Doesn't take a very keen edge at all. I don't like the working edge that it still has. Just not a good blade steel in my opinion. I know a lot of you guys like D2. That's just not one of my top 5. Not even in my. That's at my bottom. That's probably my least favorite steel, to be honest. I think it's worse than 8CR to me personally. This one's going to surprise some people. S110V. This year, I had the chance to try out S110V, sharpen it a little bit, run a edge retention test with it, and I just really wasn't impressed. I mean, the edge retention was pretty high in the 400, or actually I think it might have touched 500. I can't remember. But as far as the way it performs, just the way it goes about getting its edge retention, I really don't like. Being high in vanadium, it didn't take a very keen edge. It was very chunky, even at the 1000 grit finish. And I don't know, it just felt like a a blade steel that didn't really have a purpose anymore. And it kind of supposed to fall in between S90V and Maksim as far as its edge retention and everything goes. But at that time, or at that point, why wouldn't you could get S90V that takes a much keener edge, or you could go with Maksim if you're looking for absolute pure edge retention. So it just, I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. I didn't like the steel at all, and I don't think I'll ever buy a knife in S110V because of that fact. This other one is going to probably surprise some people as well, and probably get some comments for it. I know I have in other videos when I mentioned it. S35VN. This is the only knife I have remaining in S35VN. And that's just because it's an excellent design. This is a little ProTech SBR. Really like this knife. It's so well made, snappy action. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for S35VN, another steel that I don't think has a real good purpose. Developed to be like a little bit tougher S30V with the same edge retention. That's complete bullshit. It does not have the same edge retention. It's worse. The edge stability. I don't want to say the edge stability is worse because it's not. But I don't know. If S30V isn't tough enough for you, S35VN isn't really going to help you that much more either. I think you're sacrificing a lot of edge retention for minimal toughness. With that being said, it does take a little bit keener edge than S30V, but not by a whole lot. And it also seems like a lot of companies really mess up S35VN. They run it soft. I don't know, production companies seem to struggle with it for some reason. Apart from Chris Reeve, I haven't really put a whole lot of use on this ProTech. I might do a long-term carry project on that, but we'll see. Just not a steel I'm a huge fan of, and I've been avoiding a lot of knives in S35VN because of that. So that's going to bring us to honorable mention here. This one just missed the top 5 list, and this one comes with a big asterisk next to it. It needs to be well done M390. M390 in general doesn't even come close to making this list, but well done M390 is a very nice blade steel. When I'm saying well done, we're talking 61-ish. I tested a couple that were like 60 to 61 from higher end companies like Custom Knife Factory and was it Shirogorov? Or the Shirogorov really was disappointing. Holt. Holt Blade Works. I had a Spectre that I tested, and that did very well, and that's supposedly 61. Um, but well done. M390 is very, very good. Takes a really, really nice edge, pretty keen. Has good edge retention, deburrs really, really nicely. I don't really do this very often, but it polishes up really nice as well. Just one of those steels that takes a nice high polish, and it has pretty good edge stability for being a higher wear resistant steel. It's also super stainless, which is, if that's your thing, that's pretty darn nice. Getting into number 5 here, and I don't have a knife in it at the moment, and this one might surprise you guys, and that's going to be Venatus 4 Extra. That was a steel that I've been itching to get my hands on, and Bradford released, I don't know if they released it this year or it was at the end of last year, their little Guardian 3 in Venatus 4. They were running it a little bit on the softer side, 62 to 63, when it could really hit like 66, 67. It's Bowler's equivalent, or as close as you can get to CPM 4V. I haven't had a chance to try out 4V yet, but it being run at 62 to 63 was a little bit of a bummer to me, and I knew that the edge retention wasn't going to be quite what it could be at 66, 67. But with that being said, it has some excellent toughness, very surprising in that regard. Off the factory edge, I dropped it straight down on the concrete and put a couple big dings in the edge. And after that, anything I ran into with it, it really didn't damage the edge too much. It had pretty solid edge retention, did 232 feet, and that's not terrible. It's not great either, but I'd say that's borderline acceptable for my use. With that being said, it strops back super well. So I mean, if you got a nice strop, something like this double-sided strop from, I think this is DLT, or maybe it's knife ship free, I can't remember. I got 16 and 4 micron CBN on this, and if you don't let that edge get too bad, that's really all you need. I mean, it straps back super well. What more can I say? The thing that I loved the most about Venatus 4 was just how well it sharpens. It takes an absolutely nasty edge, really, really similar to Crew Wear in that regard. They sharpen very similarly. So at the right hardness, it definitely will have higher edge retention than Crew Wear, and the other properties are actually pretty similar. So that was one that kind of snuck into my top 5 that I don't think a lot of people were expecting. Number 4, we have CPM M4. I've tested 3 knives in that, I believe, 2 or 3, and I haven't really shown this off on YouTube. It's been on my Instagram a couple of times, but this is my Benchmade Super Freak that I had reground by Brian over at Transparent Knives. I've done some modifications to the handle as well that you guys can't really see. I actually took some sandpaper to the corners here and actually added some chamfers. This is such a nice knife in hand, and it's a great performer now. This was about 20 thousandths behind the edge when I got it. Now we're talking closer to 10 thousandths, and that's at 15 degrees per side. You guys can see pretty much just how small that bevel is on the edge. So this is a really, really good performer. M4 is something I've had experience with in the past as well, so I'm not new to M4, but let's talk about it a little bit. The one test I did was on my Griptilian, and that one did an average of 379 feet. I did 3 tests on that. I'm not going to send this one in to have it hardness tested because it seems like all Benchmade M4 is coming back right around 63, so it seems kind of pointless to bother Kurt with testing this when it's pretty much consistently at 63. I don't think I've seen one outside of the 62 to 63 range. There might have been one that was a little harder, but pretty much, you guys pretty much know about M4 pretty well already. Top tier edge retention. Not quite in some of those extremely high edge retention steel classes, but very, very good. Pretty good edge stability. A lot better at the stock geometry, if I'm going to be honest. I haven't made a video on this yet, but we might here in the future if I can't figure it out. I've had some edge stability issues with this being reground as thin as it is. I was warned not to go super low. I was originally going to go like 5 thousandths behind the edge on this. But it seems like it doesn't have the hardness, or it just can't support that geometry. I'm not totally sure yet. Like I said, I gotta do a lot more testing on it still. Off the first 2 or 3 edges, I've had some issues with edge stability. Big chunks of that edge just kind of rolling. But normally at the stock geometry, it wasn't doing that. So I think it's more of a geometry issue than a steel issue. It responds really, really well to stropping, and it takes such a crisp edge for being a high wear resistant steel. Normally when you start to get into high wear resistant steels, you kind of lose that nice crispness that you can get out of something lower edge retention like 154 cm or super blue, something like that. But this takes such a nice, crisp, fine edge, and for that reason, I really, really enjoy it. It's a pleasure to sharpen, honestly. One of my favorites as far as that goes. At number 3, we have a steel that I don't really have a whole lot of experience with outside of this year, and actually just in the last month and a half in general, and that is going to be CPM S90V. And I have it right here in this 940-1. Since I've gotten this knife, this is pretty much all I've been carrying. Just an excellent overall knife, and S90V is really, really impressing me. Obviously, we don't have any test data for it yet, but that will be coming. Blade's a little wedgy, but at the same time, I don't know. I'll talk about this more in a review, honestly, for the 940. It's really been a surprise to me. This is the third time I've tried a 940, and this one seems to be sticking. Hasn't been tested hardness-wise either, but Benchmade says they run at 59 to 61. I have no reason to assume that they're going to run it, or it's going to come in any lower than that. They seem to be pretty consistent as far as their hardnesses go. Has super high edge retention. Like I said, I'm not totally sure. I'm still doing some preliminary testing on this. This is edge number 2 that I've put on, so the third total edge that it's had, including the factory edge. Seems to have pretty darn good edge stability, better than I thought it would. It strops back really, really well, actually. This was borderline, I'm not going to say dull, but it was having some, or it was pretty much, it wasn't cutting paper very clean. And then I just dropped it up last night, and now it's cutting through phone book paper cleanly. So that was kind of surprising to me. Took no real edge damage, and everything's dropped up really, really nice. Has pretty darn good edge stability. I haven't noticed any rolls or major chips or anything like that. For having 9% vanadium, it takes such a nice edge, actually surprisingly fine, a surprisingly fine edge. That's why I kind of like this over S110V, just because you're getting very, very similar edge retention, but it sharpens up so much nicer. It takes such a keen edge compared to S110V. I would choose this 100% of the time over S110. Something that has kind of come to me the more I use it, it almost feels like a step between M4 and Maksim. So M4 obviously is high edge retention, high toughness, high-ish toughness, and it's non-stainless. Maksim obviously is super high edge retention, like pretty much best of the best edge retention. Otherwise, other than like Rex 121, 15V, that kind of thing, in a production capacity anyhow. Whereas S90V has better edge retention than M4, but not quite as good as Maksim. It has better toughness than Maksim, but not quite as good as M4. But what it does have that neither one of those do is that it's stainless, which is very, very cool. Normally when you start getting into these high wear resistant steels, they're tool steels. And this is not, well, I can't remember if they called it tool steel or not, honestly. But it is stainless, which is nice. My M4 started to rust on me a little bit after the regrind. I've had my Maksim start to patina on me a little bit. S90V is not going to do that, and you're going to get really good performance out of it. At number 2, we have 1 and 2 have been a flip-flop for me over this year. At number 2, we have CPM Crew Wear, and that would be this Maksim from Knife Center. It was a Smooth G10 exclusive. I've put a lot of use on this knife, a lot of use that it probably shouldn't have gone through, and it's held up phenomenally. had some issues with it right from the start. Not the steel, but the knife itself, and those have all been taken care of now. I almost sold this knife as soon as I got it, but here it is, like 7 months later, 6, 7 months later, whatever it was, and it's still in my possession, and it's become one of my favorites. Let's talk about Crew Wear a little bit. It has really good edge retention for the composition. If you look at the composition, it really doesn't have much to promote high edge retention, but it does maintain its edge really, really well. And when I tested it, it got 363 feet. I'd like to test it again just to verify that, but that was a really, really good result. It holds a fine edge for such a crazy long period of time. Normally with high edge retention steels, you're losing that fine edge, and you kind of degrade down into a working edge. This held its fine edge, I'd say, for a good 60 to 70% of its time before it degraded into a more of a working edge. Very impressive with this steel. It drops back pretty great. One of the cons I have to it, I guess, is that the edge stability is a little subpar, and that could be just because this one was run a little soft. I know previous runs were like 63, 64. This one was tested at 61.2. Obviously, Crew Wear has phenomenal toughness, and that's been pretty apparent. I've smacked some things pretty hard with this on accident, and it's done a great job. No major damage, honestly, and it performed really well in the toughness tests that I put it through. And anyone who owns Crew Wear knows this stuff is an absolute dream to sharpen. This is the best steel I've ever sharpened. As far as the experience goes, it takes such a nice, fine, keen edge. And if you're a pad sharpener, if you're a bad freehand sharpener like I am, it makes you look like a pro. It's really, really nice stuff. So you guys probably already know the number one steel at this point. It's been number one for a while. I know I said Crew Wear was probably my new number one. I think I'm flipping back to this steel, and that's obviously going to be Maksim, a steel I like so much that I've bought 2 knives in it. The other one is actually with Brian right now, the exact same knife that you see here, but I'm having it reground to about 5 thousandths behind the edge. I'm hoping it should be able to handle that geometry, being as hard as it is. This particular one was the hardest one that Kurt had ever tested up until recently. This one came in at 69.2. Absolutely stupid hard. The one that is with Brian was like 68.9 or something like that. So they're very, very similar. They seem to have their heat treat down for Maksim, and the natives seem to be the hardest, which is kind of peculiar. But anyhow, I don't know really what more I can say about this steel. If you want to learn a lot more about it, you can watch the whole series I did on it. But just as a brief overview of it, elite edge retention. I mean, this is as good as you're pretty much going to get out of a production knife. This one on a diamond progression did 729 feet. Just absolutely blows anything else away that I've ever tried. Even S110V that did like 5 something. I mean, you're talking another 25% more. It's just stupid. It just cuts forever. Being as hard as it is, it has really, really surprising edge stability. You don't get any of the rolls. If you're going to get any sort of edge deformation, it's going to be chips. And that doesn't really happen unless you do something stupid with it. There's not a lot of stuff out there in your daily life that you're going to hit with this that's harder than 69. The harder material is normally going to win. I accidentally chipped this a couple of times, pretty much just because it was my own fault. And I don't know, it's just not as brittle as everyone makes it out to be. And I know I've harped on that in the whole Maksim experience series. Just such an excellent everyday carry steel. It strops back great, and the edge that it takes, even at a finer finish like 1000 grit or even a little bit higher, when the edge comes up, it's fine and it feels nice and refined, but it has a lot of tooth to it still, and it still has a lot of bite, and it's so aggressive, and it cuts through anything that you try and cut. It's almost like it wants to cut. It's really a steel that you have to experience to truly appreciate it. Obviously, just it's going to be a diamond only, diamond or CBN only sharpening progression on that stuff. But man, that's my absolute favorite. Like I said, the only knife steel I've liked so much. I've bought multiples of knives in it, and I think that says a lot about the steel itself. These steels are ever changing, and as far as my top five goes, like I said, S90V might jump up, might jump Crew Wear. I'm not totally sure. I don't see it taking down Maksim at the moment. Um, but with that being said, that's my top five steals for 2019. I'd be really curious just to hear your top five down in the comments below as well. Just leave them down there, and maybe we can have a little bit of a discussion about it, because obviously everyone else has different use cases for their knives, so their steels are going to be a little bit different than what I like for my use. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for an excellent 2019, and I'll see you next year.